to share something that happened to me, something that still gives me chills to this day. For as long as I can remember, people in my family, my dad, his twin sisters, they've all had strange, unexplainable encounters in that house. They all say the same thing. There's a ghost living there, and I've seen it too. When I was about 11 years old, I lived with my grandma for a while. One night I woke up for no reason, just suddenly alert. That's when I saw her. A little girl. She had long, bright red hair, and she was wearing this old-fashioned white nightgown. She was just standing there, in the doorway of my room. Then she walked in. No sound, no expression, just slowly walking toward me. I screamed, over and over again, louder each time. I backed into the corner of the room, crying, shaking, but I couldn't stop staring at her. My dad came running in. I remember him asking what was wrong, but the weird part is, he didn't see her. I still did. She kept walking until she was right next to my bed, and then, without a sound, she vanished. Just like that. I thought maybe it was just a nightmare, a hallucination. But then it happened again. A year or two later, I was sleeping over at my grandma's with my cousins. We were all in the playroom. After staying up late, we finally passed out on the floor. Sometime in the middle of the night, I woke up. The doorknob was rattling, not violently, just enough to make a distinct clicking sound. At first, I wasn't scared. I thought maybe it was my grandma checking on us. But it was really late, like 2 or 3 in the morning. Still, I got up, walked over, and opened the door. There was no one there. I peeked into my grandparents' room. They were both sound asleep. That's when it hit me. That feeling, like something was watching me from somewhere just out of view. I got this weird chill in my chest, like my instincts were trying to warn me of something. I ran back to the playroom, and for whatever reason, I grabbed this little toy kitchen set and placed it by the door. I guess it made me feel a little safer. Those are just my own experiences, but I know I'm not the only one. My dad and other relatives have their own stories about that girl, and I know at some point I need to ask them what they saw, because deep down, I think we all saw the same thing, and maybe, just maybe, she's still there. When I was 21, I worked as the maintenance and custodial guy at a daycare just down the street from where I lived. The job covered a lot. Taking out the trash, moving furniture for events, performing small repairs, keeping everything clean and organized, maintaining equipment, and just making sure the environment was safe overall. Part of that included keeping an eye out for anything suspicious, especially anything that could even remotely suggest child abuse or mistreatment. Some days I opened the place. Other days I was the last one out, locking everything up. It was a lot for just me and this older guy. I'll call him Bob. He was basically my supervisor, though he often left earlier in the day, leaving me to close the building. The daycare itself was connected to a Catholic school and church, but I think they accepted kids from any background. One particular Friday, I know it was a Friday because Bob always ducked out early at the end of the week. He reminded me of the usual things I needed to wrap up before heading out, cleaning the classrooms and packing up the Thanksgiving decorations. Once those were boxed up, I had to carry them downstairs into storage and start bringing up the Christmas stuff from the basement. Those Christmas crates were filled with everything the staff would use to decorate the building. The entrance, the hallways, the classrooms, all of it. It wasn't my job to decorate, just to move the heavy stuff. Everyone else had already gone home by the time I got to it. It was fully dark out, probably between 6 and 7 in the evening. I was alone. I made sure to lock all the doors before continuing my work. The basement was mainly used for storage, since it was cold outside and outdoor play was over for the season. All the outdoor toys, plastic slides, those little kid-sized cars they push themselves in with their feet were all stashed downstairs. The basement had a long hallway that passed by the boiler and water heaters, leading to a back storage room. The whole area always gave off a weird vibe, mostly because of how poorly it was lit. There weren't any main overhead lights, just a couple of weak bulbs in the corners and a faint glow from the hallway. The ceiling down there was also low. I'm 6'3", and I had to crouch in a few spots to avoid hitting my head. It honestly felt like a mix between a crawl space and a proper basement. During the day, small windows let in enough light to make it manageable, but at night, it was pitch black, so I used my flashlight. I carried the Thanksgiving crates down one by one and left them near the front of the basement, mostly because I was being lazy and already dreaming of the weekend. Then, I started hauling up the Christmas ones. While I was dragging one of the containers back up the stairs, I heard it, a kid's voice, then laughter. It was faint, really muffled, but unmistakable. I froze. The voice didn't repeat, so I started checking every room I could think of. The classrooms, the playroom, the art room, the bathrooms. Nothing, but every so often I'd hear the voice again, still distant. The only place I hadn't checked yet was the basement. I went back to the basement door, opened it, and stood at the top of the stairs, listening. Then I heard another sound from below. It suddenly hit me. What if a kid had wandered down there? I rushed downstairs, calling out, "Who's down here?" I sprinted down the hall to the storage room, and as I entered, I saw one of those toy cars move just for a second. Then it stopped, but it had definitely been in motion, like it had just been pushed. I stood there, scanning the room, expecting to see a kid pop out from behind something, but there was no one. I called out again, "Anyone down here?" Silence, the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. I even started opening some of the storage boxes and crates, thinking maybe a kid was hiding inside one. But halfway through, I realized there was no way a child could close these heavy lids on themselves from the inside. That's when it hit me. I felt alone, but also not, like something was in the room with me, just out of sight. Then, right behind me, I heard a sharp plastic clatter. Something hit the floor. There was no draft down there, no airflow, nothing that could have knocked something over. I didn't turn around. I just bolted. I ran up the stairs and stopped only when I reached the top. That's when I heard it again, a whisper. It sounded like a child's voice, right at the bottom of the stairs. I slammed the door shut. I didn't know what to do except call Bob. He told me that if I really thought a kid was down there, I needed to call the cops. And here's the thing, I didn't think it was a kid, not anymore, but I called 911 anyway because I couldn't leave until I knew. 2 officers showed up and helped me search the basement. We found nothing, just the same crates and boxes I had moved earlier, and we couldn't even find the source of that plastic sound I'd heard. There were no places left to hide, and since there were no missing child reports and no sign of anyone else, the officers said there was nothing more they could do. I could tell they thought I was wasting their time, but I wasn't embarrassed. I was disturbed. I handed in my resignation just before Christmas, and I never went back down to that basement again. I'm 27 years old, currently living with my brother James in a house we rent together. My life's been pretty normal, and up until recently, I'd never had anything truly strange or unexplainable happen to me. But there was this one week, and during that week, things started to feel off. It all began on what I thought was just another ordinary night. I was in the kitchen, finishing up the dishes, about to start winding down for bed. Out of nowhere, I heard a sharp crash behind me. It made me jump. I turned around and saw a blue plastic cup, one of the lightweight ones we keep on top of the cabinets, bounce a few times on the floor before coming to a stop. That cabinet isn't somewhere you'd expect anything to just fall from, and I know for a fact that cup had been standing upright. There wasn't any wind, no vibration, no reason it should have fallen. Still, I picked it up, shrugged it off, and put it back. But that wouldn't be the end of it. Later that night, I was lying in bed, ready to fall asleep. The blinds were shut, but suddenly I noticed a very faint glow coming through them. It wasn't bright, just an odd, soft light that I hadn't seen before. I turned onto my side and tried to peek through the gap at the bottom of the blinds, but I couldn't really make out anything. I figured maybe it was a new street light or something, not worth getting up for. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. I wasn't thinking about ghosts or anything paranormal. It was weird, yeah, but not enough to raise alarms. The next day, James was at work and I was home alone. A storm had rolled in, heavy rain, low light, and constant rumbles of thunder shook the house. So when I heard another crash in the kitchen, I assumed it was just thunder knocking something over. I went to check. It was the same blue plastic cup. Again, this time it hadn't fallen from the top of the cabinet though. I had placed it squarely on the counter the night before. There was no way thunder could have moved it from where I left it. I just stood there, staring at the cup. I didn't know what to think. As I was still in the kitchen, I suddenly heard a creak from the floorboards above me. The room right above the kitchen is my bedroom. I called up for James without thinking, only to remember that he wasn't home. Maybe the storm was making the house shift or something, but still, I had to check. I walked up the stairs and turned on the light to my room. With the dark clouds outside, the whole house was dim, so the lights made everything feel harsher than usual. My room's square, with 2 large closets. I checked everything, closets, corners, nothing. I flipped the light back off. I went downstairs. When James got home that night, I told him everything. He hadn't noticed anything unusual. Still, up until that point, none of it was that out of the ordinary. That night I went to bed and fell asleep quickly, but sometime during the night I woke up. It was still dark. I checked my phone. 2 a.m. I rolled over and shut my eyes again. That's when I heard it. A distinct tapping sound, like someone lightly tapping a finger against glass. My heart dropped. It was coming from the window. For a second I thought maybe someone was outside, but then it hit me. I'm on the 2nd floor. There's no way someone could be standing outside my window. I threw the covers off and sat up. I turned to look at the window. Nothing inside. I lifted the blinds. Nothing outside either. Still, I know what I heard. I wasn't dreaming. I was fully awake. My chest was tight, and I didn't want to stay in that room a second longer. I ran to James's room and told him everything, freaking out. I'm not sure if he believed me. Honestly, I don't think I would have believed me either if I hadn't lived it myself. I ended up crashing on the couch that night, and since then, it's been 3 weeks. No more weird incidents, but I haven't looked at that cup or that window the same way since. I never believed in the supernatural, not until now.